pragmatism holds that the most important determinant of epistemology, ontology, and axiology is the research question. So meaning that what are the questions that you want to answer within the research? Because in any research, okay, the purpose of research is to answer a question or to solve a problem. So but similarly, even if you try to solve a problem, you need to answer questions to be able to solve the problem. Okay, for any pragmatist, okay, those who actually holds this pragmatism research philosophy, research starts with a problem. So it starts with a problem, and they aim to contribute practical solutions that inform future practice. Okay, so meaning that it unlike positivism and interpretivism, they are just not here just to understand something. Because for a pragmatist, just understanding something, whether it is natural science or it is social science, okay, is not enough. They want to contribute practical solutions so that things can be better in the future. So basically, the objectives of research is different, okay, between these three philosophies. What matters in terms of reality to pragmatists is actually practical effects of ideas, and knowledge is valued for enabling actions to be carried out successfully. So meaning that what's important to them, as long as the ideas can solve the problem, and whatever they consider knowledge is something that can be used in the future that allows the problem to be solved. So that is considered pragmatist. Now, pragmatics recognize that there are many different ways of interpreting the world and undertaking research. So, there is no single point of view that can ever give the entire picture, and there may be multiple realities. So, meaning that a pragmatist say that, okay, whatever ways that to solve the problem, to achieve the knowledge to be able to use in the future, they do not matter whether it is a positivism based or perhaps is interpretivism based. It does not matter to them, as long as whatever that the methods or the techniques that they use, they can solve the problem, they can gain knowledge so that in the future things will be better, the problems will be solved. So that is pragmatism. Pragmatics can combine both positivist and interpretivist positions within the scope of a single research, according to the nature of the research question. Okay, now let us look based on the ontology, epistemology, and axiology. Now, in terms of the ontology, pragmatism actually understands reality as something that is complex, rich, and external. Okay, now the difference between this, you can see that when we go into complex and rich, this is similar to interpretivism, but it is also external. External means that something that is related to actual nature, or perhaps it's not nature, something that is outside the human being. Okay, for example, let me give you one example. Let's say that, there is a bridge. Now, the bridge is not strong because when there is a flood water, the bridge is not stable. Okay, now perhaps the problem is that how to create a technique that is cost effective, that is cheap, but at the same time can build the bridge to last even under terrible conditions. Okay, to find a technique. Okay, now you see the problem, the bridge. Okay, the problem is actually outside the human being. So that's why it is called external. But it is also complex and rich because when you say that the bridge is not strong, the structure is not strong, you need to find a new technique to do it. it relates to many complex things. It's not just one item that you can measure. It is a combination of many. So basically, that's why this is the reality is complex, rich, but at the same time external. Okay, because regardless of if the bridge is not strong, whether the researcher is a Muslim or even a Hindu, does not matter. The bridge is still not strong. Okay, so basically that is why it is called external. Now, the reality is the practical consequences of ideas. So basically, they want to solve actually practical problems. They want to achieve something for the future which is better. So everything is related to practical. It's not just conceptual. They want something that can actually, the reality is something that can make a change, okay, to human being, to others, okay, to nature and so on. Okay, now similar to interpretive, okay, it is also a flux of processes, experiences and practices similar to interpretive. Now the only difference is that interpretive is just concern actually human, people or other social structures, but in terms of pragmatism, it can also involve objects that are nature or even artificial. Okay, but it also involve a flux of all these processes, experiences and practices. Now, what constitutes acceptable knowledge for pragmatism, or what we call epistemology? Now, practical meaning of knowledge is in specific context. Like I say that the bridge, okay, under a very strong wind, okay, in very cold weather, for example. Now the context is perhaps is very specific, the problem that they want to solve. So if they can find that kind of knowledge, the technique is a knowledge, a new technique or a new engineering, perhaps a technology to do that, then perhaps that is also considered acceptable knowledge. Now, true theories and knowledge are those that enable successful action. So meaning that for pragmatism, they are not actually happy just to people that say that, oh, this is the theory and so on. It's just conceptual. For them, until the theory can show that the theory is actually can have practical contribution or practical benefits, okay, in some ways, either to nature or to human being, then only it is considered acceptable knowledge. So here it says that true theories and knowledge are those that enable successful action. So if you have a theory but you cannot prove that it can be successful, then it is not considered acceptable knowledge. Okay, epistemology, okay, it focuses on problems, practices and relevance. So meaning that knowledge, okay, problem solving techniques perhaps, and something, okay, practices that can improve something. Okay, so all these are acceptable knowledge. And yes, this is similarly to problem solving and inform future practice as contribution. There's no extra bullet. This is a typo on my part. Okay, the axiology, okay, it is also value-driven research. Okay, value doesn't mean that our belief in religion or something, but something that we hold. For example, when you say that, okay, we want to do research on something because we see that a problem, so we based on our different factors, okay, different things that actually make us different from other people. So we have our own perception on how strong, okay, how serious this is and so on. So it is value driven. because it relates to problem, and the research initiated and sustained by the researchers doubts and beliefs. Okay, why we say doubts? Because sometimes when we have a problem, of course we do not have a solution, and it is normal that when we choose a certain way to solve the problem, okay, and to do research, we have our own doubts, and our doubts sometimes will influence what we choose or choose not to do, and based on our beliefs on certain things. Okay, the last point is that the researcher must be reflexive. Being reflexive means the researcher must self-reflect of the biases of the researcher's own values and theoretical predispositions. It also means that the researcher must realize and acknowledge that the researcher is part of the setting, context, and social phenomenon he or she tries to understand. The researcher should also be critical and to inspect the entire research process to identify the limitations of the research itself. So you can see that we can actually differentiate, okay, the different research philosophies based on the ontology, epistemology, and axiology. So these are all assumptions, okay, the types of assumptions within research philosophy. Okay, now in general, okay, we have covered all these three philosophies. That is related to the concept of research philosophy. There are propositions. Okay, normally when a human being, we will propose something. Okay, this is the actual truth. We have beliefs. Some people believe may not be the truth, and there are truths that people may not believe. And between this truth and belief, there is a section that intersection. See this purple and yellow color. So if, for example, the purple color, okay, it intersects. Yes, it is true. Yes, people believe it, but perhaps it is poorly justified. You cannot. It is poorly. Either it is cannot be justified, or perhaps the justification is not enough. Then it is poorly justified through beliefs. Okay. Okay. Now the yellow in the middle, that is what we consider knowledge. What we consider knowledge. So meaning that only when it is knowledge. How is knowledge formed? So when it is true, when people believe it is true, and it has been sufficiently justified, then only it is considered knowledge. So you as a postgraduate candidate, either at a PhD level or at a master's level, or perhaps even any level, okay, the only way for you to get your PhD and masters is to contribute to knowledge. So PhD, significant contribution to knowledge. For masters, just some contribution to knowledge. So how do you get to this contribution to knowledge? How can you succeed in this contribution to knowledge? First, the things that you produce first must be true. Must be true. Secondly, it must be believed. Believed by you. And of course, the researcher must believe in their work. So you must believe that it is true. And perhaps others within the research committee also believes that it's true. Your supervisor must believe it is true. Okay. And it must be properly justified. Okay, so when you say that properly justified, how do you properly justify this? By having a systematic and rigorous process to justify the truth and the belief. How? Through the use of research methodology. So if you cover properly all the in the research onion, all the layers, the steps and so on, so it is systematic and it is rigorous, and it happens that it is really true what you are trying to propose, the theory that you are trying to propose, and yes, it has been believed by yourself, your supervisors, and also perhaps the peers in the research field, then only it is considered knowledge, and that only it qualifies you to have this PhD or master's degree. Okay, so what happened? Okay, this is the same circle just now. I put in a different way. There is truth, there is propositions, there is truth, there is belief, knowledge, and fully justified true belief. Let us show an example. Okay, now what is considered truth? Let's say that now this area cure for AIDS. Now currently there is no cure for AIDS. Okay, they can have add some medicine to relieve the symptoms, but there's no cure for AIDS. Now this is considered a truth, but it is not considered knowledge. Okay, it is not considered knowledge. Why? Because nobody knows. There's that it is true. There is cure for AIDS. No, there is cure for AIDS, but the researchers, scientists have not discovered it yet. Maybe in the future. Okay, any disease there is a cure. Okay, so there is cure for AIDS, but it is not in the circle of belief because currently people do not believe there is a cure because people do not have not discovered this. So this is one. Let's say now people believe in Big Bang. There is a theory on Big Bang, how the universe started off according to scientists. Okay, so there is physics of the Big Bang, but nobody knows about the physics of the Big Bang. But there is truth out there, meaning that God, perhaps if we believe in God, we believe that God created Big Bang. Okay, but of course there is a mechanism how Big Bang works. Okay, the physics behind the Big Bang. So that is considered truth, but we don't put that as belief because nobody knows about this. Okay, but it is known something that the truth yet to be discovered. Okay, now let us go into the belief, but without the truth. Okay, now for example, the flat Earth theory. Even until now, there are people who believe that Earth is flat. Okay, this is belief, but not true. Another one, Loch Ness monster in Scotland. People say that there is this dragon, sea dinosaur or something in this particular lake based on sightings or perhaps some blurry photographs. But of course, scientists says that it is not true. There's no such thing. So, but some people tend to believe. That's why people always go to that lake, try to wait for some opportune time for them to get to see the monster. Yeah, this is a belief without truth. Okay, now what is poorly justified through belief? Let's say life after death. Okay, life after death. Okay, many religions believe that after human being died, it is not the end. So it's just another phase of the journey to some another life. Okay, after we died. Okay, now of course, although it is something that is believed by many, but in terms of scientifically, okay, if you go into science, this cannot be proven. Okay, so basically this is considered poorly justified through belief. Let us assume that it is true. I, as a Muslim, I believe it is true, but of course, we cannot use science to prove this. So this is considered poorly justified through beliefs. And now, an example, what is considered knowledge? Let's say the expanding universe theory. Now, because scientists has using all the telescope, the Hubble telescope and so on, and all the calculation, they see that actually the stars are moving away from Earth. So meaning that it shows that the expanding universe theory. So I put this in the middle because let's say that we consider that this is the truth. There is a belief, okay, and it has been actually it has been proven using empirical techniques, okay, by scientists. Okay, we say that it's belief because yeah, people believe about this. Okay, even as a Muslim, in the Quran that is more than 1400 years ago, it is explicitly stated, okay, in one of the verses of the Quran, saying that God actually expands the stars and the universe. So it is moving out of Earth. So basically that is mentioned. So meaning that you have a combination of belief, and let's say that for the sake of this argument, it is true, and scientists has also proven scientifically that that is true. So now with all this, this is considered knowledge. Now, where is the place of this within your thesis? So now, a discussion of research philosophy in your thesis should include the following. So meaning that in chapter 3 of your thesis, the first part of chapter 3, before you go into all your techniques and so on, you must briefly discuss about what is your research philosophy. You need to specify the research philosophy of your study. The reasons behind philosophical classifications of the study need to be provided. So you need to explain. And you need to discuss the implications of your research philosophy on the research strategy in general and the choice of primary data collection methods in particular. So basically, you see that many candidates, PhD or masters, neglect this part. When even they write, they do not really understand what they are writing. So basically, I hope that this group here, whether you are doing PhD or master, especially those who are doing PhD, when you have enough knowledge, you need to actually explain, okay, briefly. Say what is your philosophical research philosophy of your study, okay, before you started off with you are using what quantitative, you are using different things, but start off chapter 3 with research philosophy. Okay, so this is the end of our lesson today. So we have covered just the layer 1, the outermost layer of the research onion model, which is research philosophy. So the next lesson we will actually continue from this, which we will cover the approach for theory development. That is the second layer. Okay, thank you very much. I hope this particular lecture is beneficial to you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.